Welcome back to yet another video, guys, and for this one we're going to be looking at how to add flutterwave to your application. So what we need to do is we need to handle a way to make all these payments. So first thing you need to do is you need to know that when you're making an order, the first thing you need to do is you need to create an order first, and then you initiate a payment. But for this one, you're going to just go directly, so it's out of scope of this video to do the orders and all that stuff. So I just want to show you how to make a payment. So this is what I'm going to be building. You're going to click on payment, and you're going to have a link that we can click on. You're supposed to open your flutterwave application, right? Now when it opens it up, based on the currency you have here, you're going to have a few options. So I'm using my Kenyan currency, and if I add maybe some random number here and the payment fails, we should be able to get that transaction returned back to us, right? So as you can see, we get a webhook from flutterwave which says that this particular payment has failed, and you get all these details here. And at the same time, we are going to be able to add this data inside an orders table. So we can do order here, orders like that, and as you can see, now we get all this data inserted in our rad system. Okay, now how do we do that? We are going to first go to our flutterwave application. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go to API keys, right? So for a specific reason that I don't know, my test API keys are not working, but if yours are working, you want to copy the secret key here. And yeah, so that's all we need to do. So we're going to go to radsystems, and I'm just going to just remove whatever I had already done. So what I have here, this is a custom API key I need. Okay, so this is the API key I need, and I'll just leave it out here, and I'll remove everything else here. Okay, let me just remove everything. Let's just delete everything here. Delete that, delete this, delete this, like that. Click on OK, and I'm also going to go to the list page of the this cart list page design and delete everything here. And we have we're going to be starting from scratch. There you go. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is create an API. So the first thing you're going to do here is come and create an API, and you're going to add that to orders here. And the API you're going to create here is going to be what do we call it? Make payment. Let's just call it make payment, right? So you have that. First thing I need to do is get rid of this, and I'm going to create a variable and call it const secret key, which is going to hold my secret key from flutterwave, right? So this one, we need it to be outside our try, inside here, and inside here we're going to now add our API request, right? So we don't need this try that comes with the API request, neither do we need this catch. So we just need that. So we're going to use this catch and this try. Now at the top here, what we need to do is we need to pass authorization. Now the reason for this authorization is we need to pass the API key as a bearer token. So you're going to use these special speech marks or whatever, and then the reason for that is so that we can go ahead and attach the secret key here, right? So this secret key is going to, let's adjust this to key. So there you go. So we have passed the authorization, all that stuff here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just make these of type content type. Content. So I want to make it of content type JSON, application JSON. So JSON like that. Okay. So that is content type application JSON. Alright, so we have passed that. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to pass the payment details. So we're going to create another const payment details. Now one thing you need to know is this comes as without a constant, so you're going to also make it const, because when you do that, radsystems brings it without a constant, so I'm going to make it constant headers. So we need the payment details here, which is going to be an object. Now the first things we are going to pass here is a txt ref. So it's going to be the text ref. Okay, so this text ref is in your situation when you're working on your application is going to be the order number. Okay, so it's going to be the order number that you are going to be creating. So you have to handle that. So you can look at in a different video, but not this one. And then we need to pass the amount. Now the amount has to be coming from our front end. So we're going to do const. We need to pass the amount here. And let's do is equals to rec.body. So this is what we are going to be using to pass the amount from the front end. So this amount that we have here, we're going to also pass it down here, right? So great. Now that we have that, the next thing we need to pass is the currency. So flutterwave accepts several modes. So for this one, we're going to use USD, but because I want this to be maybe in Kenya shillings, I can just do KESC, right? And now the next thing I'm going to do is we need the redirect URL. Now the redirect URL is useful when a payment has been made. So I want when somebody goes to flutterwave website and makes a payment and it's successful, then it's going to return them back to my application to complete the order. So I want it to come back to maybe http/localhost 8060. So this will be for a situation where this payment has been successful. So if it fails, this is not going to trigger anyway, but if it's successful, then it's going to bring it back here. But for your application, you want this to be, when you take your application online, you need to update this to the link to your application. But for now, we're just going to use this one. Now, the next thing you need to do is a payment type. Okay, so the payment type can be, I'm going to use OR. So this is going to use all the available payments type in my application. But if you need to limit this maybe to certain countries, maybe you can say, I want this to be in card, M-Pesa, all that stuff. But I'm just going to be using OR, right? Okay, now, the next thing I need to do is to pass the customer details, right? So the customer details is going to be an object. And this, I'm going to pass the email of the customer. Now, I want to get the email of this particular customer from my application. So I'm going to say rec.user.email. Now, the reason for what this is going to get is going to get the email which is for the client when they log in, which is from the session here. Since we only want the email, we're just going to use select.user.email like this here. Okay, right, so that's all we need to pass for the customer. Now the next thing we need to pass is the customizations, right? And the customizations allow you to kind of display some data on flutterwave front end, basically on that card that is going to be showing the order details. So we are going to say that we want the title to be from radsystems, and the description, we can say that we want the description to be make payment, complete the order, like that. Okay, now that we have that, what now remains is for us to pass some few data here. So as you can see, the header is already accounted for. What we need to now account for is these details here on our URL here. So I'm going to pass these payment details like that. Okay, so what you might need to do now here is return this. So we can say less.ok. We want to return this to the front end. So we're going to say response.data. So this is going to be returned to the front end of our application. So that's all that we need for now. All right, so click on OK, and we are done with that. So what you're going to do now is on the front end, I'm going to go to cart here because that's where I want to show my data. So I'm going to click on design here, and I'm going to click on this. So I'm going to remove all of this. So you need to create a variable. Let's do const pay link is going to be equals to reference. Now this is going to be an empty string. So we're now going to try and trigger the payment, right? So what I'm going to do that, we're going to go to the payments, and this has to be a post request because we're trying to push maybe something to it. So we're going to change this from get to post, and what you're interested in is the path right now, the path of this. So click on OK, and on our custom JavaScript, I want to put this here temporarily, and I'm going to scroll down to where we have post request for radsystems here. Copy this, copy that, and bring it here. So I want to paste that here, and here we're going to call this make payment, like that. Now what we're interested in inside here is the amount of whichever data that you need to pass from the front end. Now remember, we have this amount, which is what you're trying to pass to the API. Now this has to be exactly what you called it here. So if we go here to the front end, we need to pass that amount here. However, since I'm not handling this dynamic sending data, we are only working on integrating the API for flutterwave, I'm just going to put 200 amount there as 200. So remember, you don't have to define the currency here because we have defined it in the backend of your API. So you're just going to get this path. This is the path of our API that we created, and put it there. And guess what? You are done. Now the next thing you need to do here is we need to populate this payment link with the data we get from the backend. So we're going to say const, not const, we're going to say payment link dot value is equals to response dot data, right? So this is going to return and populate this variable when this payment request has been done. Now the next thing you're going to do here is add a custom view, which should have a button. So let's come here and add a button inside here. Let's do button label is equals to make payment, like that. Okay, so when you click on this publish, you should get this payment button appearing here. So let me just log that in. Okay, so in case you get issues with unable to authenticate, that means your server has issues, so you can go back and check. So it means payment type failed unexpected identifier. So it means there's an issue with our backend code. So where we have that payment type here, you need to put a comma on the one at the top, publish. Alright, so now we can log back in. Log in. Okay, so it still means there's an issue. Customizations. Alright, so let's check that. Custom endpoint, make payment. Under customizations, we need to have a comma here also. The only place you don't need to put a comma is when you're finished adding your object values. So that's the only time you don't need to put all these commas and all that stuff, right? So okay, so on the cart we now have this make payment button. So now how does it look like from this mobile phone, right? Because remember, we are trying to do this application for our mobile application. So what you can do is, let's see how this looks like. So it looks like this, but maybe you want it to flex all the way up to the end. So the way you can do that is inside the button here, just put a class. If you want it to be bigger, let's do padding of 3, and let's do width to be full, so that it stretches all the way up to the end of the screen. Right, so now we have this button looking like that. So what you're going to do is, let's go back to radsystems, and now what we need to do is display make a payment, right? So we're going to get this make payment function, and you need to add it inside the button, and we are going to do that by adding a click event here, and that click event is going to trigger this make payment. However, when the payment has been made, we need to get back some data, right? But before we do that, let's handle that. So let's go here and let's do, when this payment has been made, let's do console.log, and let's do response.data, right? So we need to get that response being handled there. Publish. So now if we come back to our application here and we click on make payment, we want to now initialize flutterwave, or that flutterwave details, right? But now you notice it says undefined. The reason for this, we looked at another video that where we had to make axios variables asynchronous because it's asynchronous. So we're going to look for where we have axios and add a weight. So undefined most of the times might not be because of Axios being or that, it might be other reason, but for this particular reason it's because of that issue there. So now when we click on make payment, we should now get like a response back from flutterwave, which should give us all these details, right? So now we have all this data which is coming back from flutterwave, all that stuff, right? So this is just dummy data, sorry, not flutterwave. This is just dummy data. The reason why we're getting this dummy data is because we did not add the payment link for flutterwave, which handles the data. As you can see, we are using dummy JSON and all that stuff, right? So this is what we are going to do. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to change this link to be the link for flutterwave. So the link is api.flutterwave.com/version3/payments. You can get all these links from flutterwave documentation, right? So by using flutterwave.com/version3payment, right? Good. So when you click on this, when you publish this, we should now get actual data from flutterwave. So click on pay, and the data we expect here should be from flutterwave, right? So it says status code 41 JSON data flutterwave reference. Okay, so this might be an issue with my code. So authentication 41 means it's not authorized, so that might be from yeah, so this is from flutterwave, so that's an issue with my API key. So I'm just going to pause and fix